Okay. Hello once again. All right. This is session number 79 in chapter 11 called God or the Ego. Section number 2, it's the invitation to healing. All right. In the previous section, Jesus was talking about healing, healing the separated mind. Right? It's the beginning. He says it's the beginning of the recognition that your will is the same as God's. It's the beginning of the remembrance of who you really are. All right? And what we're trying to heal is that thought of separation, that split that happened when we thought we could be separated. And we do that in our daily lives by asking, when we realize we're in the ego thought system, the thought system of separation, we ask, how can I see this correctly? Or as they said in the previous section, what is God's will for me? Same. How can I see this correctly? All right. So the invitation to healing, if healing is the way to begin to come back, right, this is the invitation to healing. If sickness is separation, the decision to heal and to be healed is the first step toward recognizing what you truly want. Every attack is a step away from this, and every healing thought brings it closer. The Son of God has both Father and Son, because he is both Father and Son. To unite having and being is to unite your will with his, for he wills you himself, and you will yourself to him. In your perfect understanding of him, you know there is but one will. Yet, when you attack any part of God and his kingdom, your understanding is not perfect, and what you really want is therefore lost to you. Okay? So, once again, the decision to heal and to be healed is the first step toward recognizing what you truly want. All right? And what you truly want is everything that you think you lost. All right? Peace of mind. In the course of the book here, Jesus will say quite often, I know what you truly want. And what we truly want is peace of mind, which becomes the fertile ground to knowing who you truly are. Okay? And that's what we want, is to know to remember who we truly are. Right? And he says every attack is a step away from this. So when we attack any part of the sonship, he says, right, whether it's ourself or someone else or God, right, when there's any kind of judgment, an idea of separation, right, any kind of judgments really, right, that I'm somehow different than you, right, that's an attack, right, and it brings you away from the healing. And every healing thought brings you closer. When I'm willing to see my connection to the other. I'm willing to see their happiness. Right? I'm willing to see their innocence. Right? I'm willing to be shown what the correct interpretation of this person or the situation is. Okay? That brings you closer and closer to what you really want. All right? So you have both Father and Son. You are the same as God, and you create the same as God. All right? So you have Father and Son. And to unite having and being is to unite your will with his, for he wills you himself. All right? So we unite having and being. We have everything. We are everything. Okay? And you will yourself to him because in your perfect understanding of him, you know there is but one will. Yet when you attack any part of God and his kingdom, your understanding is not perfect. And what you really want is therefore lost to you. Right? So when we deny who we are, when we think we're separated from God, when we're fearful, when we're angry, right? All those things, all right? It's lost to you. Right? Your understanding is not perfect. So you don't understand who you are, right? Paragraph 2. Healing thus becomes a lesson in understanding. The more you practice it, the better teacher and learner you become. If you have denied truth, what better witness to its reality could you have than those who have been healed by it? Right? But be sure to count yourself among them, for in your willingness to join them is your healing accomplished. Every miracle that you accomplish speaks to you of the fatherhood of God. Every healing thought you accept, either from your brother or in your own mind, teaches you that you are God's son. Every hurtful thought you hold, wherever you perceive it, lies the denial of God's fatherhood and of your sonship. So in every hurtful thought you hold, wherever you perceive it, and those hurtful thoughts spring out of the idea that I'm not united with God. I all of a sudden have the thoughts that you're different. You're different. There's differences. I have to judge those differences. And I have to keep myself separate. Right? And no matter how close I feel like I can get to you, I have to keep some part of me separate. All right? It's a protection. Okay? And he says, and so your understanding is not perfect. So he says, so healing has to become a lesson in understanding. Right? And the more you practice it, the better teacher and learner you become. So after a while, we become aware that, all these negative thoughts that we have, all these resentments and judgments and, all that result from the denial of who we really are becomes uncomfortable. And that discomfort leads to pain. We could be painfully alone. You could be painfully depressed. Okay? And these are thoughts that have denied who you really are. You've attacked the sonship. You've attacked some part of God. Just by denying who you really are. Right? So we have to practice. We have to catch the thoughts and practice. Like he said in the previous section, reach out to the Holy Spirit. Ask him in every situation. That's practicing healing. All right? Practicing healing is asking in every situation, what is God's will for me? All right? What does love look like? All right? How can I see this correctly? All those things. I want my perceptions changed. That is healing. And as we do that, as we move along, right, we become a better teacher and a better learner. Right? We become grateful to learn lessons, grateful for people and situations that come in our lives, right? Because they give us an opportunity to see which guide is teaching us. And then we have a choice. I want to go back to God. All right? So we have to practice, and we become grateful learners. And we become teachers because we begin to show, demonstrate, right, that we are part of God, because we're less angry, we're less fearful. People will be drawn to you, right? Even though you'll still be denying, the good parts of yourself. People will gravitate to you because you're allowing that love to come through you. That's the teaching. All right? You're demonstrating. Jesus says you teach by demonstrating that I live in you. You teach that I did not die by teaching that I live in you. All right? And we teach that by going back to him and asking him in every situation, what does love look like? Right? The words don't need to be specific. There's no certain prayer. Once somebody asked Ken, is there a certain prayer we could say? And Ken just looked at him and said, well, can you say help? So we turn to Jesus and we say help, and Jesus knows what we're talking about. Right? It means help me. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to believe that I'm separated from God. All right? Help me. I'm all alone in the supermarket. Help me. All right? Because in every hurtful thought, wherever you perceive it, lies the denial of God's fatherhood and your sonship. So every hurtful thought, every judgment, every fear, right, all the anger, right, all the depression, he says it's a denial of who you are. It's a denial of God and that he made you. And denial, in paragraph 3, denial is as total as love. You cannot deny part of yourself, because the rest will seem to be separate and therefore without meaning. And being without meaning to you, you will not understand it. To deny meaning is to fail to understand. You can heal only yourself. All righty then. For only God's Son needs healing. You need it because you do not understand yourself, and therefore you know not what you do. Having forgotten your will, you do not know what you really want. Okay? He's being very gentle, not pointing a finger at us. All right? It's the words that Jesus purportedly said from the cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. This is exactly what he's saying here, echoing those words in the course here. All right? A denial is as total as love. Right? He says, you do not understand yourself. Right? You need healing because you do not understand yourself. And therefore, you know not what you do. And having forgotten your will, you do not know what you really want. You've forgotten that your will and God's are the same, that you are the same as God. You forgot, so you don't know what you really want. Okay? And denial is as total as love. Remember in that section before, he says that the thought systems are one or the other. They're total. They're either totally in the ego or totally in the right mind. Okay. So denial is as strong as love, as total as love. And having forgotten yourself, you don't know what you're doing. Paragraph 4, healing is a sign that you want to make whole. And this willingness opens your ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. He will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake. For besides your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. What can the Son of God not accomplish with the fatherhood of God in him? And yet the invitation must come from you. For you have surely learned that whom you invite as your guest will abide with you. So if we invite the ego into the mind, the ego will gladly abide with us. But you have to make that choice. You're the one who invites the guest. So we invite the Holy Spirit, we invite Jesus to bring the fullness of their knowledge, all right, to bring it to our mind. All right? And the Holy Spirit will enable you to go far beyond the healing that you would undertake. All right? Even if you're trying to make a truce, you're trying to make amends or something, the Holy Spirit will take you far beyond. Take you far beyond the healing you're trying to make. Right? Because beside your small willingness, right, your willingness to make things whole, he will lay his own complete will, right, and make yours whole. All right? So we have the strength of the Holy Spirit, the strength of Jesus behind us. And yet the invitation must come from you. Nothing is ever imposed on us. Right? That's the free will. Nothing is ever imposed on us. Right? Jesus and the Holy Spirit, they don't march in and say, all right, snap out of it. Let's go. We're going home. All right? The invitation must come from you. Paragraph 5, the Holy Spirit cannot speak to an unwelcoming host because his will not be heard. He will not be heard. The eternal guest, right, the Holy Spirit, the eternal guest remains, but his voice grows faint in alien company. He needs your protection only because your care is a sign that you want him. Think like him ever so slightly, and the little spark becomes a blazing light that fills your mind so that he becomes your only guest. Whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome. He will remain, but you have allied yourself against him. Whatever journey you choose to take, he will go with you, waiting. You can safely trust his patience, for he cannot leave a part of God, yet you need far more than patience. All right? He says you need far more than patience. You need to act. He says the Holy Spirit will always be with you. But his voice can't be heard when there's a noisy, drunken crowd going on. Right? When the monkeys are screaming, right? The Holy Spirit's voice can't be heard. Right? When there's mob activity, right? And the ego speaks loudest, Jesus will say somewhere along the line. The ego speaks the loudest, and he says here the Holy Spirit's voice can't be heard when there's alien voices around. All right. So when we're entertaining the ego, we're inviting the ego in. The Holy Spirit just recedes, becomes quiet. All right? But he says, but all you need to do is to ask the Holy Spirit, help me to see correctly once again. All right? And he says the light just grows. It's just there waiting for that invitation. All right? All right? And he says, you need more than patience. All right? One of my favorite sayings from the Course is that love waits on welcome, not on time. All right? So it's not waiting and waiting and waiting for you. Right? Not waiting on time to pass. It's always there, just waiting to be invited. Okay? Love waits on welcome. Okay. Whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome. He will remain, but you have allied yourself against him. Whatever journey you choose to take, he will go with you. So whatever you do, Holy Spirit is with you, just waiting. Can you help me? Help me see this correctly? You can safely trust his patience, for he cannot leave a part of God. Yet you need more than patience. All right? The Holy Spirit is always with us. Jesus is always with us. Jesus tells us, I will never leave you comfortless. He says, I go with you on this journey. All right? You will never rest until you know your function and fulfill it. That's paragraph 6. You will never rest until you know your function and fulfill it. For only in this can your will and your Father's be wholly joined. To have him is to be like him. And he has given himself to you. You who have God must be as God. For his function became yours with his gift. Invite this knowledge back into your mind and let nothing that obscures it enter. The guest whom God sent you will teach you how to do this. If you but recognize the little spark and are willing to let it grow. Your willingness need not be perfect because his is. Right? If you will merely offer him a little place, he will lighten it so much that you will gladly let it be increased. And by this increase, you will begin to remember creation. Would you be hostage to the ego or host to God? You will accept only whom you invite. You are free to determine who shall be your guest, right? And for how long he shall remain with you. Yet this is not real freedom, for it still depends on how you see it. The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you with your invitation, without your invitation. Right? The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you without your invitation. And the ego is nothing, whether you invite it in or not. Real freedom depends on welcoming reality. And of your guests, only the Holy Spirit is real. Know then, who abides with you merely by recognizing what is there already. And do not be satisfied with imaginary comforters, for the comforter of God is in you. Okay. The comforter of God is in you. Right. And the invitation must come from you. Right. The Holy Spirit cannot speak to an unwelcoming host. Right. If we're not actively asking, help me to see this correctly. then he will not be heard. I mean, you don't have to say those words exactly. It's like Ken said. You just know there's something wrong and you want to change it. You know, there must be a better way, as Bill Thetford once said. There must be a better way. That was his invitation to the Holy Spirit. And Helen Schuckman, sitting next to him, said, yes, I agree, and I'll help you find it. Right? There must be a better way to communicate, he was talking about, to get on with one another. Right? That was the invitation to the Holy Spirit. There must be a better way. It's the equivalent of help me to see things correctly. What is God's will for me? What does love look like? All those things. The words do not matter. As he says, that Jesus, the Holy Spirit, knows the prayer of your heart. Right? He says, and he's always there. The eternal guest remains. This is a very poetic line, I like it. But his voice grows faint in alien company. All right? It's like you have your best friend is at the party. And as more and more of your new friends come in, they become more rowdy and loud and everything, and your best friend kind of fades off into the background. It's as if you're listening to your new friends now. You're not paying attention to him. All right? But he says, whatever journey you take, he'll go with you. All right? And you can safely trust him. He will always be there. Always be there. Okay? And he says, you will never rest until you know your function. And that's it. You will always be roaming the world, whatever world you land upon next, all right? Whatever universe, you will be roaming around, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear until you know your function, until you are perfectly aware that you and God extend totality everywhere. And he says, until that day, you won't rest. For only in this can your will and your Father's be wholly joined. All right? To have God is to be like God. Right? And he has given himself to you. Right? You who have God must be as God. For his function became yours. With his gift, when God extended himself and you arrived, right? That was his gift. You do the same thing. You are as God. Invite this knowledge back into your mind, he says. Invite this knowledge back into your mind. Okay? And let nothing that obscures it enter. The guest whom God sent will teach you how to do this. So, Holy Spirit will teach you how to do this. Okay? He will teach you how to invite knowledge back into your mind. Right? And we do that when we ask, help me to see. He says all you have to do is recognize a little spark and be willing to let it grow. He says it will grow. Alrighty then. And it will increase. All right? And as it increases, you'll get closer and closer to remembering creation. All right? Oh, happy day, as they say. And then he asks, the final paragraph, he asks, so what do you want? He says, do you want to be hostage to the ego or host to God? Right? You will accept whom you invite. And you are free to determine who shall be your guest and how long he shall remain with you. Yet this is not real freedom, for it depends on how you see it. The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you without your invitation. And the ego is nothing, whether you invite it in or not. Real freedom depends on welcoming reality. And your guests, only the Holy Spirit is real. And of your guests, only the Holy Spirit is real. Right? Know then who abides with you, merely by recognizing what is there already. And do not be satisfied with imaginary comforters, for the comforter of God is in you. Right? So all these alien voices that we invite to the party, he says, that's not it. You got to invite the Holy Spirit and listen to the Holy Spirit. He says, know then who abides with you. Right? And do not be satisfied with imaginary comforters. Right? As if these friends you invited to the party are going to be the ones to comfort you, the ones that make you feel happy and you're not lonely. Right? And you become dependent on them for that. Right? He says, do not be satisfied with imaginary comforters, for the comforter of God is in you, the true comforter. Who will comfort your every imagined need. All right? And we'll just leave that right there. All right? That was section 2, the invitation to healing. All right? The healing depends on your invitation. All right? And we'll see you again shortly. All right? In the meantime, invite the Holy Spirit in for a conversation. Okay. All right then. Bye now.